Paid software stores on Linux don't exactly have the best track record. Many have tried and many have failed. Ubuntu Software Center had a paid software store for a period of time and it fell down catastrophically. Similar things happened with Click and Run from Linspire and many others. However, the Gnome Foundation has teamed up with KDE. Yeah, yeah, chocolate and vanilla, peanut butter and bananas. KDE and Gnome are working together on a paid Flathub software store. This is a real thing that's happening, and it's being funded in part by the Endless company, the people behind Endless OS and many other projects. This announcement came just a couple days ago from Robert McQueen, the president of the Gnome Foundation, the president of the Gnome Foundation Board of Directors. He posted this over at flathub.org. I'm going to read a little bit to you now, and it is absolutely fascinating to look at this for two reasons. The first is that it's destined to fail, not just because most paid software stores on Linux have failed, but because they're putting almost no resources behind this project. They're putting some, but not enough to actually make it happen. And in addition, it's weird to think about this in the context of what is happening at both GNOME and KDE right now. So I'm going to read a few things to you here from Robert McQueen's statement. Quote, the GNOME Foundation is seeking a contractor to help with program management, financial/legal setup, and public outreach to bootstrap Flathub LLC. This work is funded by Endless. Project overview. The Gnome Foundation, in partnership with KDE EV, basically Gnome Foundation and the KDE Foundation, is bootstrapping Flathub LLC to become a self-sustaining entity. Flathub has already established itself as the premier app distribution platform for Linux, serving over 4 million active users and hosting more than 2,500 applications from over 1,500 contributors. That is actually true. The numbers of Flathub are significant and impressive. People really are using Flathub in significant numbers. I don't know that I would call it the premier app distribution platform for Linux. I think many standard package formats and repositories still have significantly larger numbers, but Flathub is doing well in this regard. Now, I want to read this to you because the program manager will focus on these key objectives. Okay, what are the key objectives here? Number one, launch a payment and donation system for applications and Flathub itself, establish operational governance for Flathub LLC, coordinate financial and legal operations, and ensure community engagement and transparency. And they're asking for a bunch of different knowledge and experience, knowledge of US and software legislative landscape, experience with accounting and basic economic management, track record of establishing cross-organizational processes, experience working with volunteer communities. I don't mean to laugh. And coordinating technical work and fundraising and communication abilities. Okay. But I want to scroll down here a little bit because there is a budget listed. They have the available budget of, hold on to your knickers, $12,000. $12,000 and an expected duration of 3 months part-time. Individual hourly rates are not to exceed $55 per hour without prior agreement with the Gnome Foundation. Say what now? You're hoping to launch a paid software store and an entire LLC around it, working tightly with the Gnome Foundation, the KDE Foundation, and Endless, somehow navigate all of that, navigate the legal requirements of everything, and you're going to do it by just someone working part-time for only 3 months, and you're not willing to pay them more than $55 an hour to do it? You're not exactly going to get the best and the brightest here. I don't mean to scoff at $55. $55 is $55. But let's be honest. If you're really looking for someone who has significant real-world experience in actually successfully launching something like this, you're going to need to spend a lot more than $55 an hour. And it's going to take a lot longer than 3 months part-time. It's just not going to happen, folks. This is not going to happen unless they pony up additional money to make all this happen. And the additional money ain't coming. It ain't happening because the Gnome Foundation is broke. They've announced they're broke every way they can possibly announce that they're broke. They haven't even replaced their executive director yet, and they recently just laid off. This was back in October. 1/3 of their entire staff. It was a disaster. And this is following huge, massive amounts of disasters, like the fact that the Gnome Foundation started kicking out elected board members that the community elected in secret and in private without telling the people who voted for their board members. I mean, it was just crazy chaos is happening over there. And of course, let's not forget the fact that if you mention or link to anything related to Lunduke on the Gnome Foundation properties, their forums, their mailing lists, etc., you get permanently banned for life. Multiple people have been at this point, including really, really prominent contributors to Gnome, including package maintainers for major distributions. So Gnome is in utter chaos at this point. And there's no money to throw at this from Gnome. They are barely existing. Now, one other thing I think is kind of interesting here is Gnome is not looking to make this a part of their income. You may remember, if you follow the Gnome drama over the last year, that they have had a really difficult time coming up with a reasonable way to have steady income, right? They made a 5-year plan that included everything except how to actually make money, right? There was trans issues and diversity and inclusivity and the idea that they were eventually going to make a PowerPoint slide and it was going to be a really great PowerPoint slide and that was just going to save everything, but they never discuss how they're going to make money. Well, now, in theory, if a paid Flathub based app store were to succeed, that has the potential for bringing in a not insignificant amount of revenue if it were to succeed. Now, again, this has been tried many times, and on Linux it normally doesn't succeed outside of Steam. But just the same, that's not to say it couldn't succeed in the future. But Gnome is saying flat out, they don't want a piece of that money. They want to spin it off as an LLC that is separate from the Gnome Foundation, and they want to partner with KDE to do it. Now, KDE is in an entirely different boat because KDE has said, you know what we want? We want to stay in business. KDE recently, just a couple days ago, announced that they were essentially adding a donate to KDE nag screen to KDE. And I use nag screen in the most loving of terms here, because what KDE is doing with their cool desktop environment is they're attempting to utilize their popularity in order to bring in enough income to continue to fund development and resources to improve that development, right? They're trying to keep in the black. They're trying to not go bankrupt. So here's Gnome doing everything they can to go bankrupt, and KDE doing everything they can to not go bankrupt. And they're partnering up on something that's a paid app store. It's a really bizarre teaming up. And I'm not 100% sure where this goes, if anywhere. Because again, when you look at the available budget, it's $12,000, 3 months part-time. Oh, you know what? I think I could launch an extraordinarily successful application store business with the software, the legal requirements, the accounting requirements, the payout issues, the documentation needs. I could do it all, barely working a couple hours a week, and I could do it in 3 months. No problem. Anyone who tells you that has never done this work. There is a ton of work here to do. Now, it's doable with a very small team. It might even be doable with just a handful of people over the course of the next few months. It might be, but one person, not that well paid, half time for 3 months, Not going to happen. They're looking for someone with open source project management experience, financial operations, community management, legal document review. They wanted all sorts of things. We strongly encourage candidates from diverse and underrepresented backgrounds, as well as those who might not meet all criteria, but believe they can contribute to Flathub's success. So they're not really worried about the merit of the person. You know what? If you don't know about releasing software or the legal requirements or how how you could financially operate such a system, don't worry about it, because if you're from a diverse or underrepresented background, we'll consider you anyway if you think you can do a great job. Part-time for 3 months. I don't mean to laugh. I hate to kick a dying horse that's laying there on the ground, but that kind of is what it feels like here. Now, it would be kind of interesting to see such a project succeed, but this is not how you accomplish that. We'll watch it. I'll keep tabs on it. We'll see if they manage to fill this role. We'll see what they manage to do with it. If they do manage to fill it, we'll see if the Gnome Foundation can even manage to really fill their executive director role with something other than, I don't know, an orc paladin. We'll find out in the days and weeks ahead. Thank you to all the Lunduke Journal subscribers. Thank you for making all of this work possible. I could not do this without you. Go to lunduke.com and click on some links. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, nerds and nerdettes across this glorious, amazing, and lovely inner tubes of ours, I do declare, end broadcast. I need to click a button. Oh my gosh, where's